I was 26 when this happened. I worked as an operations assistant for a mid-sized shipping company in Chicago, one of those office jobs where most days feel like a copy of the one before. I wasn't miserable. I wasn't thrilled either. I was just functioning. I lived alone in a small apartment in Lakeview, close enough to the elevated tracks that my windows rattled whenever a train passed. This happened during that unsettling week in August 2024, when several major cities around the world were experiencing rolling blackouts. At first, it seemed isolated to Europe and South America, but new alerts kept popping up every few hours. No one knew how bad it would get. People were anxious in that vague, collective way you see before big storms or political events. I kept telling myself it was nothing. Blackouts happen all the time. That Friday night, I stayed at the office later than I planned. My supervisor had dumped a last-minute scheduling report on me, and I wanted it off my plate before the weekend. By the time I packed up and walked out, most of the building had already emptied, leaving that hollow after-hours quiet that always made the air feel heavier. Outside, the sun had already set, staining the sky with leftover orange along the horizon. The hum of traffic, the neon signs, the distant sirens, it all felt reassuringly normal. I remember thinking I'd grab a sandwich, go home, shower, and watch something mindless. I didn't know that in a few hours I'd be barricaded inside my dark apartment while someone walked floor to floor looking for me. My routine that night was boring in the most comforting way. I stopped at a convenience store near the Red Line station and bought a turkey sandwich, a bag of chips, and a sports drink. The cashier was a teenager who seemed fully committed to hating his job, but he still told me to stay dry out there. The storm clouds were thickening fast. I took the train north, earbuds in, but nothing playing. I like the muffled feeling it gives me, like the chaos around me is behind glass. People on the train looked tired in that late Friday way. Office workers slumped over, 2 girls dressed for a night out taking selfies, a guy nodding off with a grocery bag dangling from his wrist. I got off a few stops later and made the 10-minute walk to my apartment building. The wind smelled like rain and electricity. I remember thinking I should have charged my phone at the office. It was already at 42%. My building was a typical older Chicago brick complex with awful soundproofing and a lobby that always smelled faintly of cleaning products. The night security guard, Tom, sat behind the counter watching a baseball game on a tiny TV. He lifted his chin in greeting. "Quiet night," I said. "So far," he answered without looking away from the screen. I took the stairs to the 3rd floor, unlocked my apartment, and went straight to the shower. I remember feeling grateful to be home, grateful for the warmth, grateful for the predictable normalcy of my Friday night. I had absolutely no reason to think anything was wrong. It was around 10:40 p.m. when the first odd thing happened. I'd finished eating and was lying on the couch scrolling through news updates about the worldwide outages. Cities in Canada were starting to lose power. New York was reporting localized instability. Reporters kept using vague phrases like unusual grid behavior. My lights flickered. Once, softly. I barely reacted. Chicago storms take down half the grid on a good day. But then my phone buzzed with multiple alerts in a row. Breaking, coordinated blackouts expanding. Officials urge residents to stay indoors. I frowned and refreshed the page. Nothing loaded. My Wi-Fi icon flashed, then disappeared. I sighed, thinking Comcast was being Comcast again, and got up to check the router. That's when I noticed someone outside on the sidewalk. My third-floor window overlooks a narrow street, illuminated by a single, dim street lamp. Under that lamp stood a person, completely still, facing my building. I couldn't make out their face. They weren't on their phone, weren't pacing, weren't doing anything except standing there. At first I assumed they were waiting for a rideshare. But they weren't glancing at their screen. They weren't looking for a car, just staring forward. Before I could think too hard about it, the lights flickered again, this time violently enough to make me flinch. The TV cut out. My apartment dimmed to a faint glow. Outside, in the half-second before total darkness, the person under the lamp was still staring straight ahead, body rigid and motionless. Then the entire street went black. When the power snapped back a moment later, the sidewalk was empty. I told myself I had imagined it. Storms distort shadows. Power surges make your eyes play tricks. Still, something in my chest tightened, a subtle warning I tried to ignore. It hit at 11:12 p.m. Everything, every light, every appliance, every hum of electricity went dead in an instant. My apartment plunged into pitch black. The air conditioner clicked off. The refrigerator went silent. The street outside became a void. A second later, my phone lit up with an emergency alert. National grid failure, power outage across Chicago. Stay indoors. Conserve battery, await further instructions. Then even my service bars disappeared. No signal, no Wi-Fi, no power, and outside, nothing. No cars, no voices, no sirens, just rain and an unnatural stillness. I stepped to the window and stared into the darkness. The buildings across the street were featureless silhouettes. The street lamp was out. The world felt physically smaller, like the darkness had weight. That's when I heard footsteps, slow, steady, deliberate footsteps on wet pavement. I squinted, pressing my face closer to the glass. Someone was crossing the street toward my building. Their outline was barely visible, but the posture, the same rigid, unnatural stillness I'd seen earlier, made something in me jolt. I backed away from the window. A moment later, a new sound rose from downstairs, a metallic clank, then another. Like someone testing the front door of the building, my heart kicked into gear. Maybe it was a neighbor caught outside. Maybe it was Tom at the desk. Then I heard the stairwell door creak open. Wet footsteps began climbing the stairs. Slow, heavy. Unhurried, one floor, then the next, then the next. I lived on the third. The footsteps reached my floor and paused. The silence afterward was somehow worse. I turned off my phone screen and crouched behind my kitchen counter, trying to calm my breathing. My heart felt like it was shaking my ribs. My apartment was so dark I couldn't see my own hands unless I held them close to my face. The footsteps moved closer, down the hallway that led to my door. Then they stopped, right outside. For several seconds, nothing. No breathing, no movement, just the storm and my pulse. Then came a soft, deliberate knock. Not loud, not urgent, just testing. "Hello?" a voice said. Low, gravelly. Like the speaker hadn't used their vocal cords in a long time. I didn't answer. Another knock, this one slightly firmer. "I know someone's in there," the voice said. My body froze. My mind raced. How could they possibly know? I swallowed hard and forced out a shaky, "Who is it?" The voice changed. Instantly, from deep and rough to light, casual, almost cheerful, wrong in a way that made my skin crawl. "Building maintenance," the new voice said. My stomach dropped. It didn't even sound like the same person. It sounded like someone imitating a voice they'd heard before and getting the tone wrong. I grabbed the heaviest object within reach, a glass bottle from the counter, and backed away. The doorknob twitched, not turning, just feeling, testing. Then it turned, hard, my lock held. The person on the other side exhaled, a slow, frustrated breath that pressed against the gap under the door. "Open it," they whispered. Not demanding, not pleading, just certain. I tightened my grip on the bottle and stepped farther back, shaking so badly the floor seemed to vibrate. The handle rattled again, then stopped, and the footsteps slowly moved back down the hallway, disappearing toward the stairwell. I stayed frozen in place for a long time, listening for any sign they were still on the floor. Eventually, curiosity pushed me toward the door. I looked through the peephole. Pitch black hallway, completely silent. I didn't sleep that night. I sat against the wall holding the bottle until the first hints of sunrise crept through the windows. Around 6:15 a.m., the power surged back on. My phone lit up with missed alerts and emergency updates, but none explained what happened. When I went downstairs, Tom, the security guard, insisted no one had entered during the blackout. No door logs, no buzz-ins, nothing. "I didn't leave the desk all night," he said. "Didn't hear a thing." The police dismissed my report within minutes. A blackout, a storm, a frightened guy alone in a dark apartment. They assumed I had panicked over a harmless stranger. But I wasn't imagining the footsteps, or the voice changing, or the hand on my doorknob. Someone was inside the building that night, and they weren't looking for shelter. It's been 8 months. I moved to a different neighborhood. I installed 2 extra locks. Life went back to its routine shape. Almost. Storms still put me on edge. Flickering lights make my stomach drop. And sometimes late at night, when the wind rattles the hallway windows, I remember that confident whisper through my door. A few nights ago, during another citywide grid strain, my lights flickered once. Just once. And down the hall, faint but unmistakable, I heard a soft knock. Not on my door, not yet, but getting closer.